Show here on The Cave, cavetalkradio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app. Great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd flying solo today for a 1-hour edition of the program. Good to have you aboard. And for today's opening rant, we start with the NFL. Big Blue with its first playoff win in a very, very long time. And no doubt fans are excited as they should be. Fans are proud as they should be. Fans are pumped up as they should be. So you're waiting for the but. Well, here it is. But it should be much more jubilant. It should be much more, I guess, there should be a much greater feeling of accomplishment here. And you know why there's not? Because for all year, and my co-host who's out today would normally be in this group, people have poo-pooed what the Vikings have attained and what they achieved this year and what kind of team they were. Yes, they're not perfect. Yes, they have flaws. Yes, Kirk Cousins is not a top flight quarterback, but he's a damn good quarterback. And this is a damn good team the Giants beat. And I feel that there's this sense that, well, the Giants should have won this game because this was not that good a team. No, this was a team that won, 12 or 13 games? This is a really good team the Giants beat. This is a team they really were up against it, in terms of having to play a really good game to beat. Because, look, this is a team that scores in bunches. I know they're feast and famine a little bit, but they score in bunches. And, the Giants played their game. They played the Vikings game, I mean, this was a high-scoring game, a lot of points, and this is exactly the type of game I didn't think the Giants could win. I thought the Giants needed to keep this game in that 27-24, 24-21 range to have a chance to win, and this game was in the 30s for both teams, and the Giants won. And you got to give them a lot of credit for that. And in order to give them the amount of credit I think they deserve, you have to give the amount of credit I believe their opponents deserve for what type of team that team is that they beat. And that's the part I think is coming up short today and has all season. People like to poo-poo Kirk Cousins like he's just some bum. This guy's a 10-year plus starter in the NFL for a reason. He's not a bum. Guy's really good. Is he one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL? Probably not. But is he somewhere between 11 and 15? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Really, after you get past the obvious ones and then the, top of the next tier. So, okay, let's just go through them real quick. Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. Those are probably your five, right? Okay, you want to throw Trevor Lawrence in there somewhere? Okay, fine. We throw in Trevor Lawrence. We're getting to the point now where, okay, how many more guys are we taking? You could Jalen Hurts. Okay, there's 7. Is Lamar Jackson really better than Kirk Cousins? I don't know. You want to put him in there? Fine. Put in Lamar Jackson. That's 8. Okay, fine. I'm going to give you all the benefits of the doubt. All the guys that are in doubt, I'll give you. You want to say Dak Prescott is better than Kirk Cousins? All right, fine. Put in Dak Prescott. That's 9. And then who are you going to put in your 10th? Who's number 10? Is it Daniel Jones? Who is it? It's not Russell Wilson anymore, right? He's fallen from grace, at least for the time being, right? I would think. Is it Brock Purdy? He's played 2 games. It's not Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not Geno Smith. Is it Kenny Pickett? Who's your next guy? My point is, I'm not trying to be the Kirk Cousins fan club here, but the guy is criminally disrespected. If there's another 1 or 2 that I'm forgetting, fine. We'll say 10 and 11. But Kirk Cousins is somewhere in the top half of NFL quarterbacks, maybe just outside the top third. Somewhere between the top third and the top half, you get to Kirk Cousins' name. And that's nothing to sneeze at. So the team the Giants beat yesterday, the guy that is at the helm of the team they beat, was at the helm of one of the most explosive offenses this year. And this is a team that at any given point could put up points in bunches. They didn't get all those crazy comebacks for no reason. This is a good team they beat. A great team even. Great maybe a strong word, but a really good team. And the bottom line is this. the Giants are a really, really good football team. They really are. And I am so impressed with the way they played this game because this game was not their style. This was not their flow. This was the Vikings type of game, and the Giants beat them at their own game. And I'm incredibly impressed by it, and I'm incredibly happy. Look, because the bottom line is this. This is not a game that I thought was a sure thing. I picked the Vikings to win this game. I picked the Giants to outplay them, but I had picked the Vikings to win, thinking that their explosive offense would at some point strike a quick, deep strike that the Giants, with their sort of methodical offense in most games, wouldn't be able to come back from in time. And I was wrong. Look, I was wrong. The Giants' offense went toe-to-toe with them the whole game and came out on top. And credit to this team. And credit to Daniel Jones. Look, this guy was much maligned, deservingly so, for quite a while. And now, look, how many quarterbacks would you take over him right now? And I'm borrowing this from a friend of mine, Darren Kunis, who does some work with satellite radio with Sirius XM, and he owns a local business here in Orange County. This is kind of his take, and I'm borrowing it here. But really, how many guys would you take over Daniel Jones right now? All right, so there's the obvious ones. And there's just some ones that might seem obvious, but aren't really that obvious. Are you really going to take Tom Brady at 45 years old over Daniel Jones at whatever he is, 26? I think that's probably not a great idea. Is Brady better right now than Jones? Probably, yeah. But he's 20 years older, almost. Are you going to take Aaron Rodgers? It's the same argument. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is better than Daniel Jones, sure. But he's 40 years old almost. So, I mean, I'm going to put those two in their own kind of special category. I'll let you make that decision. You know, short-term greatness for long-term goodness. Which one do you want? So I'm going to put those two aside. I'm not even going to count them because I think they're their own category. So let's count the guys who are not 40 plus, who are still good. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, got it. Justin Herbert, got it. Josh Allen, got it. Totally understood. Who else are we taking ahead of Daniel Jones right now? Jalen Hurts, okay. I could see that. I could see going the other way on that one too, but I could see Jalen Hurts. Are we going to go with Dak Prescott? Maybe. But I think that's close. Are we going with Kyler Murray? Probably not. Lamar Jackson? Maybe. Probably. Although, I don't know. But maybe. I mean, there's not a lot of these guys when you really think about it. Brock Purdy, he's an interesting one because he looks great. And we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. I mean, he looks tremendous, but he has like 3 games or so, 4 or 5 games under his belt. Like, it's too early to make a judgment, but he does look good early on. He really does. So, look, Daniel Jones has gone from almost out of a job to now you're going to struggle to name more than 5 or so quarterbacks that you would take over him, if you're being honest with it. Trevor Lawrence probably is one. But, I mean, realistically, how many of these guys are there? I mean, Daniel Jones is like, pretty good. That's the bottom line. And this goes to show you, for as important as the quarterback position is, and for as much work as goes into it, and as much scouting and resource as goes into it, I know Daniel Jones doesn't light the world on fire, but there's just so precious few guys that do. That mediocre, middle of the pack, above average is about as good as you can expect. I mean, yeah, you could get lucky and end up with a Mahomes or an Allen or a Herbert, but there's 3 of those guys, right? So you have to really get lucky. More than likely, what you have to do is you have to win with a guy who's capable, but not spectacular. You have to win with guys like Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones. Everyone wants the next Brady. Well, there's only one of him, right? There's only one Tom Brady. There's only one Aaron Rodgers. There's only one Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, right? There's only a few of those guys, and two of them are ancient. So what? All the other 26 teams are supposed to just fold up and say, we can't compete? Of course not. And we saw that with the Giants. We saw that with the 49ers. We saw that this weekend. I mean, look, they didn't win, but Miami put up a damn fight against a great team that does have one of those three lucky guys with their third string quarterback. So let's reel in the importance we put on having one of those, quote, guys. Let's reel it in a little bit. It's possible and even probable to compete at the highest level without one. And the truth of the matter is this: as the percentage of a team's salary cap that a quarterback absorbs continues to go up, smart teams that realize the pitfalls in all this are going to start more coveting those middle of the road guys, because they'll be able to pay them, instead of 40% of their cap, they can get away with 27% of their cap. And that difference will be huge. That's going to be enormous. And what you're going to realize is most of us can never predict when a guy is going to become that guy, right? It's just lucky. So you may as well just try to predict when someone is going to become sound and good and solid, that, okay, if I build a good roster and have a good coaching staff, we can win with this guy. And then I can pay a guy like that, instead of $50 million a year, I can pay him 27, or I can pay him 30. And that's still a ton of money, of course, but it's the difference between having 40% of your cap tied up in a quarterback, Denver, or 27%, San Francisco. Makes a big difference. Big difference. So congratulations to the Giants. We got a friend of the show who haven't been on in a while. Randy Zelia will be joining us in a little while to talk Giants football as well from Back Sports Page. We're going to bring him on after the break. We'll continue on with this conversation. We'll get to the other games as well. The Bills narrowly escaping. What does that mean? And we'll give you a quick look at the NBA from the weekend as well. But a football-heavy first hour. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
All righty. We are back. We're going to go ahead and try to get our friend Randy Zelia here of Back Sports Page. We're efforting him right now, so just bear with us for a little bit. We will find Randy, and then we will get him on the phone here. Randy is a good friend of the show, and we haven't had him on in quite a while. And one thing you may not know about Randy, he has access to the Giants. He has press credentials through his company Back Sports page. So he's a guy that we definitely want to talk to today as it relates to his opinion on the Giants. And Randy, I think, will be the first to tell you once we get him on. He's been sort of pessimistic about this club. He's not really been a believer. But, this team won me over earlier in the year. I believe this is a team that is good and stable. And I think that ultimately they are a team that is really going to be a tough out for the Eagles. I think the Eagles will win. We'll get into that more throughout the week. But I believe the Eagles will win this game. But I don't think they're going to run over the Giants. I don't. I think the Giants are one of these teams that has a lot of chutzpah is the word. They have a lot of skill. This is a team with a lot of discipline. And I think ultimately they're a team that is going to compete with anyone they play with. I don't think they're going to get blown out of the water. And we'll see. Ultimately that's what it's going to come down to. But kudos to them for a big win against the Vikings. Let's talk about Buffalo for a second. Having a hard time reaching Randy here. Let's talk about Buffalo for a second. I think Buffalo is another team that is lucky to be here. They really are. I think Buffalo barely squeaked by Miami, a Miami team on their third string quarterback. And look, they barely beat them. They were ugly in this game. Things were sloppy. It was just a bad look. And if you're a fan of this team, you're happy you got the win, especially come playoff time. A win is a win is a win, right? Like ultimately, that's it. But man, you were scared yesterday. You had to be. Look, all those turnovers. You start out like a house of fire. You're thinking, oh, we got this. But then all of a sudden, we're talking a close game. We're talking Miami took the lead at one point. And this is a third string quarterback that was doing this to the Bills. They're going to have to clean things up. They're going to have to play a whole lot better against Cincinnati. They're not going to win against Cincinnati playing the way they played against Miami. It's not going to happen. Just not. But by the way, Cincinnati didn't play great either. I mean, Cincinnati legitimately was a couple yards away, if that, from losing to Baltimore, who was on their own backup quarterback, right? So, and by the way, bad coaching decision not to give the ball to your running back there in that goal situation versus the quarterback. Not a smart play. If that's Lamar Jackson, I think that's one thing. But being that was your backup, I think that was really asking for it. I think that was not a smart coaching decision from a coach who's generally very smart, right? Like Harbaugh is one of the very best coaches in the entire NFL. But the guy just had a brain fart there, or his offensive coordinator did, or whoever. I mean, that was just not a good look. It really wasn't. And if I'm a fan of this team of Buffalo, I'm really concerned right now. I'm very concerned. They just didn't look like the type of team that they need to look like to beat the teams they're going to have to beat to achieve their goal. They're not going to beat Cincinnati this way. They sure as hell won't beat Kansas City that way. And they're not going to beat any team that would potentially come out of the NFC most likely that way either. This was their one game to kind of screw around and still win, right? Like they did not play well. So I think Buffalo has a lot of soul searching to do in the days ahead of the Cincinnati game. I really do. I mean, Josh didn't play his best, as Austin is saying in the chats, but ultimately is, he got enough plays done to win the game. But that was not a good win for the Bills. It was a win, and all wins at this time of year, especially, are good wins in the sense of, you're still playing, but tread lightly. They're going to have to play a lot better than that against Cincinnati. And, the one thing that this game reminded me of, if I'm the Bills, and this is where I think the NFL is absolutely insane. People still to this day bash the Barkley drafting. If you can get a running back who is truly elite, it's a huge difference maker. I don't want to hear that it's not. This Bills team almost lost to a third string quarterback because they couldn't run the ball. Why was Miami able to get all those takeaways and all of those turnovers? Because they're able to play zero coverage often enough. They got burned once on the play to Diggs. They got burned one other time, I think, in the game. But basically, for those 2 times they got burned, they were able to make up for it. It was a net positive for the Dolphins, that zero blitz coverage. You can't do that against a team with a real running back. You can't. You think they're going to do that to the Giants? Now you say, well, the Giants don't have the passing game. Well, that's true, but they have the running game. So let's put Barkley on the Bills for a second, or let's say they had acquired McCaffrey, as was rumored, instead of the Niners during the season. Are you going to zero blitz a team with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield that you could just throw up a draw and he's going to go 15 or 20 yards, 12 yards? Not a chance. No way. You can't do it. When you don't have a running game, teams can get away with other stuff that they can't get away with if you do have a running game. And right now, if you look game to game, Daniel Jones outplayed Josh Allen. Does that mean he's a better quarterback? Of course not. But it does mean that if you have a great running back, a guy who's a far lesser quarterback can look just as good, and if not better, than the guy who's his superior in terms of ability. And that's what we saw. If you look at these two teams and you combine these two games, the Giants game and the Bills game, one of your takeaways should be, if I'm the Bills, I need a running back. One of my takeaways should be this whole idea that talented running backs are a dime a dozen interchangeable cattle parts. That really should go by the way of the dinosaur. It truly should. It is so obviously false. I mean, look at some of the teams left in the playoffs right now. The Giants are here, won a playoff game because they have a great running back, and they've been able to build an offense off of the threat of that running back. They've been able to resurrect a career of a quarterback who is on his last legs, was heading for the scrap heap of infamy, and now all of a sudden we're talking about him as, well, are there 8 guys you'd rather than Daniel Jones? We just had that conversation. And all of that comes from 2 things: coaching and having a great running back. Imagine if the Bills had a great running back, or even a really good running back. They have no running game whatsoever. It matters, folks. These running backs are not all the same. They're not interchangeable pieces. Talent at that position is relevant, just like it is at any other position. And I'm tired of that argument. I really, truly am. And most of all, I'm tired of people bashing the Giants for taking Barkley. Barkley is a godsend to this team. This whole season we've enjoyed as Giant fans or observers of New York area football wouldn't have happened if Barkley wasn't on this roster. If they had Singletary, reverse it. They have Singletary, the Bills have Barkley. The Bills would have won 14 games, and the Giants would have missed the playoffs. And Dable would have been just another coach in line to be fired because he's not getting the job done. And Dable's a great coach. But that's the difference between having a difference maker at a key position and not. And running back is absolutely a key position. It truly, truly is. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll continue the football conversation. A lot more to get to. Bills, Giants, move on. We'll look at some of the other games from the weekend and get an early preview of the games still ahead this upcoming week. Of course, we still have one game tonight, the Monday Night Football game, Bucks and Cowboys. We'll talk about that. We'll also get the radio question of the day in this hour. A lot to get to. It's the Gary Ayd Show. We're rolling here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
All righty, we're back, and it's time to continue our football conversation here on the Gary Ayd Show. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd flying solo today. Rich will be back tomorrow talking NFL football. So the Giants are moving on. They'll play the Eagles. And then the winner of tonight's Cowboy and Buccaneer game will play well, they're going to play tonight. We'll see how they work out. But the Bills are playing Cincinnati. That's what I was trying to say. The Bills are playing Cincinnati. So the Niners, my Niners, won convincingly against the Seahawks. And I have to tell you, I'm beginning to think that Brock Purdy might very well be a legitimate all-star quarterback. I'm beginning to think that. Now, I also think part of my hesitancy, besides just the small sample size, is the fact that I firmly believe that Kyle Shanahan is capable of turning water into wine as far as it goes with NFL quarterbacks. This guy is an absolute magician as a play caller and offensive architect. He really is. I think he's the best offensive coach in the NFL right now, and I think it's by a pretty comfortable margin. Dable's really good too. Those two guys, I think, stand alone right now in offensive genius status. But man, they looked good. I mean, that first half, you were sweating a little bit. They were actually down to Seattle 17-16 at halftime, but they just came out in that second half and they just bulldozed them, man. I mean, what was the final score? 41-23. So Seattle scored 6 points the rest of the game, and the Niners went on and scored another almost 30. They scored 25 points. So they had outscored them 25-6 in the second half. I mean, that's a second half butt kicking. And I have to tell you, if Purdy is as good as he looks, the Niners are the best team in the NFL. If Purdy's really that. All respect to the Eagles, who had the best regular season in the NFC by far, maybe in the whole NFL, along with Kansas City. But all respect to them. They're an excellent team. They're a great team. I think the Niners are better. If Purdy is really this good. Now, if he's reverts to some type of lesser talent, if this is just a sugar rush of some kind, then the Eagles are just as good, if not better, than the Niners. But if Purdy is this, No one's beating this team. I don't think. I mean, let me look at the rest of this roster. You got two guys who you absolutely have to double team in Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. You have a third guy that you really do need to double team, but you can't on this team. That's George Kittle. And you have a fourth guy in Ayuk who is hard to guard with one guy. You can do it, but you need one of your best guys to guard him one-on-one. I mean, that's four guys, two of whom absolutely necessitate double teams. The third of whom really would get double teamed on almost any other roster, but can't on this one. And the fourth one, you're not going to double, but you're going to put a really good defender on him. That's a lot of things to have to cover. And then you throw in a defense that attacks you, that is just all in the backfield, that blows up coverages all the time, that blows up blocking schemes all the time, and is going to make big plays and turnover-causing plays. You throw in all that. The only thing holding this Niners team back from being like 14-3 was the fact that they had inconsistent quarterback play. It's a revelation what we're seeing from Brock Purdy to this point. And it goes back to my point from earlier, which is this idea that we really shouldn't be so monomaniacal and so obsessed with this position. Because the truth of the matter is we can't tell our ass from our elbow most of the time evaluating these guys. This guy was a third-string quarterback. And, it's announcers can be so disingenuous. I'm listening to this game on satellite radio, and whoever the color commentator was for the Niners, the play-by-play man set him up and said, well, Brock Purdy has been a revelation to the public, but probably not to you, right? And the guy goes, oh, no, not at all. We knew he was capable of this, watching him in practice, the preseason, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, I'm calling BS. Either you're full of it and you're too prideful to admit that I don't friggin' know, because no one knows with these quarterbacks. Or you're so stupid that you let the guy that you knew was a all-star level quarterback, that you knew was capable of throwing 4 touchdown passes in a playoff game, right? A guy who's going to be an all-star if he keeps this up. If this is what you knew Brock Purdy was, then you're an idiot for keeping him out. And you're an even bigger idiot because he was your third-string quarterback. No one knew who he was 4 weeks ago. So which one is it? I hate that. The truth is we don't know anything about any of these guys, how they're going to respond to the action, how they're going to respond and integrate with the teammates and coaching staff and schemes that they have. We have no idea. And ultimately, that's what it all comes down to. There's no sport on the planet that is more team sport than football. Everything is interdependent. There's not one thing that happens on the football field that is independent of everything else. Not one. The only thing is the play call. Stuff that actually happens on the field, all interdependent. Completely. Quarterback is dependent on blockers and it's dependent on whoever he's throwing the ball to. Running back is dependent on blockers. He's dependent on, really the blockers. And he's dependent on the defense. To play the right coverage or not play the right coverage. Everyone's interdependent. The offensive line can block all they want, but if receivers can't get open, they're eventually going to falter. Receivers can get open all they want, but if the quarterback can't get them the ball, they're not going to matter. A tight end or another running back, a blocking back, could be a great blocker, but if the running back he's blocking for has no idea how to cut or read a defense, his block's going to be for naught. Everything's interdependent in football. Everything. There's nothing that's independent of anything else. It's just not. So, which just makes it reasonable that if you build all of the other good parts, you can plug in most quarterbacks and have some success, if not a lot of success. And we're seeing that right now with Brock Purdy. We really are. And maybe he's better than that. Maybe I'm underselling him right now. And certainly his play to this point would suggest that, but let's see it for a little bit while longer. Tonight's game, I picked Dallas, maybe against my better judgment. I'm kind of nervous about it. I have to be honest. I don't really believe the way they've been playing is reflective of what type of team they were all year. I thought they were one of the 3 best teams in the NFC for pretty much the whole season. And right now they're playing absolute trash. And unfortunately for them, the Buccaneers are playing good. And of course, we have, well, Tom Brady to deal with. So there you have it. I don't know, man. I'm very, very concerned if I'm Dallas. I'm still picking them. I still think they're the best team, but they have to play like it tonight because the Bucs team is not going to give it to them. The Cowboys are going to have to come out here and take it. Now, they have the talent and the ability to do that. That's the good news. The bad news is they haven't done it in weeks. And I don't know what they have to do it now. They better. And there is those pesky ghosts of the last 20-something years of Cowboys playoff football. It's not a pretty picture. I don't generally value that stuff much because each year's team is a new entity unto itself. But if you value those things at all, that's working against them too. And of course, the Brady playoff mystique and aura and all that is not in their favor. But they are at home, and they are the better team. I think the Cowboys will win, but I think I'm nervous. Let's just put it that way. I'm very nervous, and I think anyone that says they're not is lying to you. It's false bravado. You have to be nervous. You have to be. How could you not be right now if you're a Cowboys fan? And the bigger problem, the compounding factor is on the flip side, the Bucs have nothing to be nervous about. They're playing with house money. They shouldn't even be here. So they're going to play loose and confident. You got the Brady thing in their favor. They're a dangerous team right now. If you're the rest of the NFC, you're probably rooting for the Cowboys here. You want those Bucs out as soon as you can get them out because of all that stuff. They're playing with house money, and a team that doesn't feel they have anything to lose is going to play loose, and that's a dangerous team to play. You add in Tom Brady to that mix and above average receivers with Godwin and Evans, and that's a team I don't want to mess around with. It really is. Rest of the playoff bracket, of course, Cincinnati is playing Buffalo. We mentioned that. Jacksonville is being hosted by Kansas City. So a lot of stuff. San Francisco is awaiting the well, they got the Giants. I'm sorry, they got the winner of tonight. That's what it was. They're waiting the winner of tonight's Dallas and Tampa game. All right, let's talk with Randy Zelia from Back Sports page here. Let's see if we can get him on the line here. I think we're having a hard time connecting. Try you right back, Randy. Try him right back. But yeah, ultimately, I think if you're a fan of the Cowboys, you have to be nervous. I really think you have to be nervous. Now let's talk to Randy. What's up, man?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. So, let's talk some shop here. Specifically, let's talk about the New York Giants. So,
okay, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about the New York Giants.
This is a team that you haven't really been a big believer in all year. It took a lot of people a long time to come around. And the one thing I have to say is a lot of people didn't believe in the Vikings either. I wasn't one of them. Look, this is a team that won 12 games for a reason. As the great Giant coach once said, you are what your record says you are. Bill Parcells, right? This is a good team the Giants beat, and they beat them at their own game. This was not a Giants-style game yesterday. This is very much a Vikings score, and the Giants beat them at their own game. I think the Giants deserve a world of credit for this win, and to give them as much credit as they deserve, I think you have to give more credit than the Vikings have gotten all year to how good they actually were. The Giants beat a really good team at their own game yesterday.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they saw them earlier in the year on Christmas Eve really set the tone for it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the fact that they played a one-score game and lost back on Christmas Eve really, I hate using that word, set the tone. But in the past, if you look at the two runs against the New England Patriots, those playoff journeys that they went through, the teams they played, they saw earlier in the season and lost.
Yep.
That's something a lot of people don't realize. If you look at that 2011 team, they started the playoffs against the Atlanta Falcons, which they did not play during the regular season. And then the following week, they saw Green Bay, who they saw earlier in the year, and Green Bay beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same thing with the San Francisco 49ers. They saw the 49ers earlier that year and then beat them. And then the Patriots they saw the Patriots early in the year, but the Giants beat the Patriots. But they were able to pull that one through. But it was also the same thing back in 2007. You know, they played Tampa in the first round. They played Dallas, who they'd lost both meetings in 2007 too, and they won in the playoffs. And then they played Green Bay in the NFC Championship game, and they lost to Green Bay early in the year that year too. So it's sort of ironic. And now the next week they play the Philadelphia Eagles, who they lost to both times this year. But one thing you have to keep in mind about the Philadelphia Eagle Giants matchup is last week in week 18, the Eagles played their starters and the Giants played their backups and only lost by one score.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing you have to worry about. And Davis Webb started for them, and Daniel Jones did not. So it was one of those things where it was a very, 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 very interesting dynamic, because a couple weeks earlier when they played at MetLife, the Eagles blew the doors off the Giants.
They did.
They destroyed them.
Yes.
Now it's such a different dynamic. And the one thing, there's two things that you can never, if you're playing a team in the NFL, you never want to see them have: belief and momentum.
Yep.
And I think this Giants team has belief and momentum right now on their side. And it's a very scary thing when you have that. Now the Giants are making a run. And look, Daniel Jones was the one guy who I kept on saying, you shouldn't give him this type of money until we really figure out what he is, what we're doing, and how this team is going to build. I really do believe, for the first time, I became a believer in Daniel Jones yesterday, because that was a big game.
Wow, that's the first time, huh?
Yeah, listen, I'll be the first one to say during training camp, and I wasn't the only one. We're all taking bets on when Tyrod.
Coming into the season, there's no question. See, me personally, I became a believer in him around the same time I became a believer in the offensive structure that Dable has put together. And so it was week 6, week 7, 8, somewhere around there. I was like, okay.
The thing is, though, you look around that time, that was when they were winning games against Baltimore and Green Bay.
Yep.
It was risque play calling, fourth down play calls. And I think right now that the Giants are finally, look, they're making the best of what they got.
Yep.
You have the Kenny Golladay situation. We all know what that is. Darius Slayton, who's usually like a number 2, number 3 receiver, is now put in the number 1 receiver position. So right now, the Giants are doing the best they can with what they have.
They need receivers, yes.
Yeah, they need receivers. I think that's going to be an off-season.
Let me ask you a couple of things. Does anyone in the voting apparatus of the NFL, the people that vote for the season awards, they're all in this whole, quarterback is the end all and be all, almost like monolithic block belief system that dominates the NFL right now. Does anyone have the gumption and the balls to vote for Barkley for MVP? Because he really should be considered on that level. This whole season doesn't happen without him.
No, yeah. Look, the simple fact of the matter is, I just saw a tweet this morning too, saying no one wants to hear the terms playing with house money. This was supposed to be an evaluation year. This was supposed to be a year where the Giants are seeing who they want to keep for 2023, 2024, and 2025. I host a podcast on backsportspage.com called The Big Blue Report with Jonathan Casillas. Jonathan Casillas is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He's also a 2-time defensive captain for the New York Football Giants from when he played. And we break down, and one of the things he said too is you can never tell a player that this is an evaluation year and the year doesn't matter, because those guys are all playing for those jobs.
Of course.
I think what's very, very interesting is that the Giants right now, the Giants are in that scary mode where they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And God forbid if they lose this week, and they start planning for next season, they might attract some free agents, some nice name free agents who are going to want to get paid. And when you get those guys who want to get paid and you sign them to your roster, the grit guys,
yes,
the guys who are gritty, the guys who are digging down and give you those little intangibles, those guys are going to be gone for higher priced players, and it kills the momentum of the team.
No, you need a mix of those, no question. All right, let me ask you two other things. Right now, I would say Brian Dable has to be near the top or at the top of Coach of the Year. And so Doug Peterson for that matter. Which of those two, if we were to narrow it to those two, which of those two would you vote for?
I would give Dable the nod out of those two because Dable's doing a lot more with a lot less. I said the Jacksonville Jaguars were beginning of the year. They were not, with the right coach and with their talent that they have, they weren't losing, they were learning. And towards the end of the year, they got on a real hot streak and they were able to come through. And then they beat a great Chargers team. Not great Chargers, but a very good Chargers
a
team.
solid Chargers team. Yeah, very good.
That's a solid playoff matchup. And they won that game. Dable didn't know what he had. Like if I started naming off members of the Jaguars to you, you'd heard of a lot of those guys. If I start naming after you get through the top couple names of each side of the ball in the Giants, and I start naming guys who are key contributors, you probably would never have heard of these guys. You know, if I started saying to you Adoree Jackson and Azeez Ojulari and Andre Robinson, and I could just go down the line. You know, the household, the people, the non-Giant fan probably wouldn't know Julian Love. These guys are just working hard from the offensive side of the ball. Daniel Bellinger. Bellinger is a name that we haven't heard of. Isaiah Hodgins. It's a Cager. We can go up and down the line for the rosters. Jacksonville has a lot of guys. They just needed the right guy to steer the ship, and you bring a Super Bowl winning coach in there to do it. As one who can also raise a quarterback for Trevor Lawrence, and you're going to have success. It might just take a little time. But look, they had a great game on Saturday night. I'm looking to see what they do this upcoming week. That should be a lot of fun. And as far as the Giants are concerned with the scheduling, do you hope for the Cowboys win? And then if you can beat the Eagles, you get the Giants and the Cowboys and the winner going to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think ultimately in the NFC, if Brock Purdy is what he's showing to be, I think the Niners are the best team in the NFC and probably the best team in football.
What logic will teach you? Then yes, I think that the Niners are the ones who should be going. They've been hot. They've been going. They have a lot of momentum on their side. They have Deebo Samuel. They have McCaffrey. Obviously, what you're going through with your quarterback situation, when you have that type of talent around you and that type of defense, you can play quarterback in there and be successful.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And they've been consistent all year. That's not a team that's been prone to a lot of ups and downs. They've been very consistent this season. The Niners have.
Well, they started slow.
But the first couple of weeks, yes.
The first couple of weeks, and then Trey Lance got hurt, and then Jimmy Garoppolo got in there. There's nothing worth setting than Jimmy G TV. That's what I always say.
Is there another example in your memory following football where, like, because I'll tell you this, I'm a fan of the 49ers, right? They're my favorite team, full disclosure. And when Trey Lance got hurt, I came up on my show the next day celebrating and blowing horns. I was so happy that my starting quarterback got hurt. That doesn't even sound right saying, but it's the truth. Like, it changed the season. It turned them into a winning team.
Well, and then that's the thing, though. My question is always if you draft the quarterback, we live at a different time now with the NFL, where we expect a rookie quarterback to go in there to be successful right away, when it's not really the case. Look, it took Aaron Rodgers 3 years ago off the bench.
It took Brock Purdy 3 seconds to be a beast.
I understand that, but you also have to look at what Brock has around him.
Well, Lance had the same thing.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. But we have to understand that we still are in a time. I honestly felt that one of the biggest mistakes the Giants made was throwing Daniel Jones out there as quick as he did. Yes, he made a splash with that Tampa game.
Yep.
And he struggled the next 2 years. Would have loved to see Elon Manning take a contract extension for 2 years.
That I agree with.
And because the Giants at that point in time in 2019 were not going in.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Okay, so I personally would have kept Eli around and let Daniel keep learning. So when he got out there, his boom would have been bigger. And because right now, not only did Dable have to come in here, give him another offensive scheme to go, but he also had to clean up his mistakes that he had and bad habits that he had over the last 3 years under Joe Judge and Pat Shermer. So I honestly, like, obviously we can go back and be armchair quarterback and look back and say, this is what we should have done. This is what we could have done. Obviously they didn't, but I think Daniel would have benefited a little more time under the learning tree from Eli Manning.
Agree.
Obviously it's paid off now. You know, we're all of us who were against the Daniel Jones are eating our words, and that's fine.
That's fine with us. Two things left I want to get out with you. First of all, as I mentioned before, I think Saquon Barkley should be a front runner for MVP. He's not going to be, but I really think he should be. To that end, do you think the season he's powered for the Giants here has in any way erased some of the vitriol that everyone seems to have around the fact that he was drafted second overall? Has this helped that any? Because I always defended that draft pick. I think this guy's a generational talent. And I believe firmly that if you get a generational talent at running back, it makes a big difference versus just your dime a dozen running back. I really believe that, but I'm in the minority there. Do you think this season he's powered has had any impact in maybe winning some of those people over to the fact that, hey, maybe that wasn't the worst draft pick in the world?
Well, I think there's a lot of people who love to be armchair quarterbacks again and also criticize it in the moment. In that time, when the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley, Dave Gettleman was attempting to fix the offensive line, and the goal was still to try to get another opportunity for Eli Manning in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. That's what was going on at that time when Saquon Barkley was being drafted.
Correct.
Okay, and you look back at the quarterbacks that were taken at that time, you only have 2 or 3 that were really successful. Sam Darnold is finding his way in Carolina. It looks like that's what they're going with in Carolina from here on out, and we'll see what's going to happen when he has a full season under his belt. But Baker's flown all over the place. Yeah. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are the two biggest standouts.
Sure, especially Allen, of course.
Yeah, from that quarterback class. So I think that at the time when you're sitting there saying we're going to trying to get Eli one more run at it, I didn't hate the pick because we kept on saying in 2017 they had Orleans Darkwa as their starting running back.
Yeah, that's not good. And then what are you supposed to what do you do? What's football 101? If you don't have a good offensive line, you don't have a great passing game, what do? You get a bellwether running back, a bell cow running back, and ride the guy. And it worked his rookie year. Look, he was the only thing on offense that year that was worth watching. He was.
Yeah, and also too, we also have to remember, he got hurt I believe in 2000, and he came back in 2001. But it really takes you a full year.
21, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry, 21.
Yes.
In 21, he came back, and he was very tentative because he was working his way back in the football shape. It's one thing to work. I've always said this about the NBA too. It's one thing to come back from a tear or something of that sort, and you work your way just to get yourself back into shape. Then you have to work yourself back into whatever sport you're playing, and you have to, get yourself comfortable and mentally okay with getting yourself there. Yes. And that's what Barkley had to do. And also too, there was a lot more. There was not as much passing to the sides for Barkley. This year was more run and let's go forward. And, it was a fresh start for a lot of these guys. Look, there's a lot of guys who got buried under Joe Judge's bench.
Yes.
Who were signed this year. Like O'Shea Zimenez, he struggled under Judge. It was a key contributor early part of the defense this season. Man, I can just go up and down the line with certain guys.
Well, let me get this one because we're up against the top of the hour here. You're picking the Giants or the Eagles in this game?
Oh man, hoping to go to practice this week to see what the vibe is there. Obviously, the vibe is locked in, and everyone's looking to see what's going to happen. I think winning that first game against the Vikings, it's a win for this franchise. I know that everyone keeps on saying, "Don't say house money." The Eagles just have so much talent, and after a while, it's just going to click. It's just going to click for the Eagles. I think it might be a close game. I'm going to give the Eagles the edge, but check back with me on Wednesday or Thursday.
All right, there you go. So you're going to try to talk yourself into it as the week goes on.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of. It took me 18 weeks for me to believe in Daniel Jones.
That's right. So we got a couple more days. You convince yourself that I went from not thinking he's a starter to he could beat the best team in football. A couple more days for that one. That's funny stuff. Check him out on backsportspage.com. Does a great job over there. Randy, thanks, man. Good talking to you again.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's Randy Zelia. Oh, that's so funny, man. He's trying to talk himself into it. You can see he's trying to talk himself into it. I don't blame him. Look, he covers the team. It's in his backyard. You get emotionally attached to these things after a while. You absolutely do. And you try to convince yourself, look, the Giants have had a great season. And I agree with Randy. You never want to say you're playing with house money. And I also agree, by the way, I do think this game, like I said earlier, I do think they'll keep it close because of the style they play, because of how good Barkley is, because of Dable as a coach, and because of the growth that Daniel Jones has had. I just don't think they have enough big play weapons on the outside, partly due to injury and partly just they don't have them on their roster to win against this Eagles team. Because the Eagles do a lot of the same things the Giants do, but they add in the deathly speed and the incredible vertical threats too. And it's just a little too much. I don't think the Giants can beat them. But look, I said I thought that was gonna be their biggest problem against the Vikings was the Vikings vertical threats, which are every bit as scary as any other team in the NFL. When you talk about Justin Jefferson and Thielen and Cook and all those guys, like I don't want to play those guys. And the Giants beat them at their own game. So, crazier things have happened, but I'm not picking the Giants to beat the Eagles. I think they'll keep it close though. I could see them losing by, a one score margin, maybe 10. I think it's a close game, but I don't think it's like a nail biter. I think the Eagles are just a little bit better. I really do. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do hour number 2. Hour 2, we have the top 5. We got the radio question of the day. We'll get to some NBA and take one more lap around the NFL and get you set for Monday Night Football. I believe the last one of the year. So we got that playoff game today against Dallas and Tampa. Winner playing the Niners. So we got more to get to. We'll be back after this. Top of hour 2, the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave. All righty, welcome into the Gary Ayd Show, Hour 2, flying solo today. Rich Anselmo will be back with me tomorrow. Great to have you aboard. It was nice to catch up with Randy Zelia. Hadn't talked to him in a while on his perspective on the Giants. Good football, Hour 1. And we have a little more of it to kick off Hour 2 for today's edition of the Top 5, which admittedly is not the normal thing because obviously I'm coming up with it today. Normally, Rich comes up with these, sort of surprises me, and I kind of fly off the seat of my pants. That will not be the case today, but that's all right. Changing it up a little bit. Back to the norm tomorrow. So, I was thinking, in light of the football we just discussed, what would be my 5 biggest storylines heading into the divisional round next week? I know we still have the one remaining wild card game tonight, so we can lump that in there as well. So let's start there. One storyline that immediately comes to mind for me is if you're the Cowboys coaching staff in particular, how do you reconcile with the fact that you haven't been playing well the last few weeks? Even that's an understatement. They've been playing terrible. And also, look, I understand the talking points and the thing is going to be like, what's happened in the past doesn't matter. It's just this week. It's just this year's team. And all that's true. But these people are human. You know, some of them are going to be thinking extra pressure. Team hasn't won in a long time. Brady mystique, like that's going to seep into someone's subconscious. It's absolutely going to. How do you combat all of those things? What are your strategies to keep things loose, to build confidence this week when you have been playing well lately, to have kind of built it organically? This is a big challenge, I think, for Mike McCarthy and his staff. And to me, we're going to be able to tell early on in this game. When I say early, I mean the first series, the first couple of plays. On both sides of the ball. The Cowboys, whether they get the ball, if they get the ball first couple of plays of the game, if they either defer or get the ball second, what's their defense like? I think we're going to be able to tell right away what type of energy McCarthy and his team were able to instill in the players coming into this game. I think we're going to see it right away. I think this is one of those games that if the Cowboys don't start fast, I'm not even talking about being up big early. I'm just talking about making big plays, having energy, having guys doing those like Superman poses and ripping their shirts off, you know, metaphorically and screaming and going crazy. If we don't see some of that early on, I think there's a great probability that they don't win the game. I think it's very, very important. I think it's crucial for the Cowboys to start fast in this one. I really do. Now the flip side of things, the Bucs have been playing a lot better. They're playing sort of with house money. They weren't supposed to be here. They got all that stuff working for them. I still have a lot of questions about that offensive line. I still have a lot of questions about that defense at times. Are they able to sort of capitalize on all the things going well for them against a team that on paper and on the field for most of this year is far better? Right? Like the Cowboys just have more talent. It's just as simple as that. And they have a defense that really excels at takeaways. They're usually in the top 5 of NFL in terms of takeaways. I think they were second or third this year. I mean, this is a team that really gets after you. And they have maybe the best linebacker in the NFL in Micah Parsons on their team. So how does Tampa functionally respond to that? See, it's almost two different things. With Tampa, it's a question of physical capability. In my opinion, can they physically hold up against that Cowboys defense? And can Tampa's defense do enough to limit the Cowboys running attack in particular with Pollard and Elliott? And then of course the play of CeeDee Lamb is always a concern. But then on the flip side with the Cowboys, it's more up here. And for those of you on the radio, you can't see me. I'm pointing to my head. It's more between the ears, right? Like, can the Cowboys control this between the ears, and can they control what's between the breastbones in their heart? Like, to me, it's like more of a mental and emotional challenge for the Cowboys, whereas it's more of a physical challenge for Tampa. So I think it's an interesting kind of dichotomy between what's going to power these two teams. So those are two of my 5 storylines I'll be paying attention to. Now let's take a look at these remaining games. Let's just stick with that. Whoever wins this one, what are they able to do against this Niners team? Because the Niners have seemingly everything right now. Brock Purdy's playing as well as any quarterback in the playoffs right now. They have an elite defense, probably the best pass rushing defense in the NFL. Nick Bosa is a monster just by himself. Then you throw in the fact that they have 3 or 4 playmakers, 3 or 4 guys who require either your best guy or a double team. You can't do that. There's only one best guy, and you can only really double one guy at a time. How does either team match up with that Niners offense? And then if you're the Bucs in particular, with the way their offensive line has struggled, like I just mentioned a minute ago, let's say the Bucs win tonight, and they're playing the Niners. If you're struggling against these other teams to block and to keep Brady, upright and give him time, how are you going to handle the pass rush of this Niner team? That's the storyline. Now let's flip it. Cowboys win. If you're the Cowboys, can you find a way to possess the ball long enough to win this game? Because while the Cowboys are elite at taking the ball away, they're not very good at keeping it themselves. They commit a lot of turnovers. So, and this is a team, the Niners defense, that causes a ton of turnovers. We saw that in the second half against Seattle. They turned Geno Smith back into Geno Smith. After a season of being Geno Smith, he was back to being Geno Smith, in that second half against the Niners. So are the Cowboys able to control their turnovers against a team that is more than capable, elite at turning teams over? So those are 2 other storylines. And one more from not this game. I'm choosing to focus on this game just because it's the thing that's in front of us. We might get to more of these later in the week with some of these other games. The last storyline I'm going to have is, what does tonight mean as far as Brady's future in Tampa and or his NFL career in general? And what does it mean for Mike McCarthy? What is more on the line? And we'll never know this for sure because you only get to see one outcome. But my question is it more likely that Brady retires with a loss or Mike McCarthy gets fired with a loss? See, I don't think Mike McCarthy should be fired, but that's been the talk. That's been the speculation. It's probably the better word, not so much talk, but speculation. And I guess it's something to keep an eye on. But those are my 5. So if I'm putting those in order, number 1 is going to be the Cowboys' just mental acuity and emotional well-being. How much can the coach and the coaching staff get them in the right place emotionally and mentally for this game? That's 1. Number 2, do the Bucs have enough physical prowess to deal with this Cowboys defense up front and prevent Brady from being forced into mistakes or having to throw the ball away a lot and go into 3 and outs because they can't give him time? Number 3 is, who is more likely to lose their job over this? Does Brady retire if they lose, or does McCarthy get fired if they lose? That's number 3. Number 4, with the Bucs, if they play the Niners, if they win this game, do they have enough? Again, same question. Do they have enough physical prowess, especially up front, to deal with that Niners pass rush? And then do they have enough just offense to score enough points to beat this team? And number 5, my last one, reverse it. Cowboys win. Can the Cowboys limit their turnovers enough against a team that causes a lot of turnovers to give themselves a chance against the Niners should they win this game tonight? So those are my 5. It's going to be interesting. It really is. I'm looking forward to the game very much. Tampa and Dallas tonight. I can't wait to watch it. Austin believes that the Bucks beat Dallas, Phillies beat the Giants, Bucks beat the Niners, Eagles beat the Bucks, and Eagles rep the NFC. Okay, he's going way ahead. We're going to kind of take this a little bit at a time here. We'll keep this 1 week at a time. So we'll see. One thing we didn't touch on is the Charger disaster against Jacksonville. I am shocked that Staley has not been fired yet. But if Sean Payton is available, I want Brandon Staley gone, and I want to call up Sean Payton and be like, hey, work with Justin Herbert. It's like a Christmas present, a late Christmas present for Herbert. For Herbert too, but for Payton, I meant. Get this guy out of here. Look, you were up 27-0 at halftime. That is unacceptable. Now, I wasn't watching this game. I was listening to it. And there were periods where I was in and out. I had heard rumors, but I've not been able to substantiate or confirm this. But I had heard things that they were resting some players at the start of the second half. The Chargers, that is. I don't know if maybe Austin can confirm that for us. Were the Chargers actually resting starters at one point in this game in the second half early on? Because that's like beyond stupid if that's true. But even if that's not true, the fact of the matter is this is a type of game you can't lose. And I've not been a fan of Staley's coaching to begin with. I think he's underachieved with a team that should have been a lot better. I thought this was my dark horse team to be a Super Bowl contender this year. That's what I thought of this team. So Staley's one of those guys that underachieved with a lot. I feel the same about Josh McDaniels in Denver. Look, I think Russell Wilson is a system quarterback, but I think this team is a lot better than what they've shown. They were a great defensive team. They should have been a playoff team. I think there's no question about it. So that wasn't the case. They didn't rest starters. That's good. Like I said, I had just heard rumors about that. That's why I only brought it up because I had heard that, but I didn't think that would be true. Having not seen it, I didn't want to make a comment one way or the other, really. But either way, the bottom line is this. This is a fireable type of loss. It really is. I mean, you just can't have these losses. They're the type of losses that if you don't really change things, can set a team back for a lot of years. Look at Atlanta. So anyway, that was a mess. And then, kudos to Jacksonville for having the intestinal fortitude, particularly Trevor Lawrence, who was getting absolutely shelled in the first half. 4 turnovers. He was running for his life, getting sacked and everything. Kudos to him for having the intestinal fortitude and the gumption to pull himself off the proverbial mat, and sometimes literally off the mat, and come out in that second half and act like nothing happened. Good job. That shows a lot of guts. That's exactly the type of thing you want to see in a quarterback and be like, okay, we can get behind this guy because no matter how bad things get, he's not going to quit. And that's huge. I mean, because he had every reason to just quit there. You had every reason to be like, well, maybe Trevor Lawrence is overrated. Maybe the moment's too big for him. You could have had all those conversations. I know I was thinking them while I'm watching them get destroyed in the first half. And then now you're thinking, wow, this guy can't be flat. He's unflappable. He doesn't quit even when things are going bad. It's amazing how quickly you can get the complete inverse of one situation in the NFL. You go from choke, moment's too big for him, overrated, he's not ready for the big spotlight, to 20 minutes later, oh, this guy is unflappable. He can never lose his confidence. He will respond to anything. He's clutch. He comes up big in the big spot. Like, it's amazing. We have both extremes about the same guy in a span of 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. It really is incredible when you think about it. Well, there you have it. All right. So let's take a quick break. We are going to come back. We will do the question of the day. We also have some NBA to get to. So good stuff the rest of the way. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All righty, it's time for the radio question of the day. Let's get this party started, as they say.
Soccer has overtaken hockey, and now it's closing in on basketball. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and three-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-948-5749 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you a copy of The #1 Mistakes Retirees Are Making with Their Investments Today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-948-5749 now. Again, that's 800-948-5749.
Soccer's popularity has surpassed that of ice hockey in the eyes of American sports fans. This according to the Daily Mail, which reports that analysts now believe soccer to be the 4th most popular sport in America. Their analysis was based on both sports popularity, participation, attendance, market value, and willingness to play. Daily Mail's analysts report soccer has surpassed hockey in all categories and is now closing in on basketball, which is currently the 3rd favorite sport in the United States. Question: which sport do you think is most exciting to watch? Hockey or soccer?
I don't like either. I think both sports are absolutely god-awful to watch. In fact, I think they're the same thing. I think hockey's just soccer on ice, basically, and you get to hit people. So I guess that makes it a little better. But the problem is all of that extra physicality that would ordinarily make it attractive to me is completely lost, in my opinion, because of the absolute brutalness of the visibility of the sport, the lack thereof. It's just visibly hard to follow on television. It just flat is. So, no, neither. And, as far as the methodology of how the study arrived at the fact that soccer has overtaken hockey and is going to close in on basketball. That last part in particular, well, the whole thing. Of course, soccer is going to win on participation over hockey. I mean, how many ice rinks that have hockey at them do you know of? Anywhere where you live? You'd have to look that up, probably call someone, make ice reservations, have the equipment, have enough people. I mean, like, it's really not a convenient sport at all. Soccer, I can tell you 5 fields within minutes of me that you can randomly find people shooting on goals, playing 2-on-2, half field, whatever. Like, I can tell you 5 of those. I'm sure you could too, based on wherever you are. So, of course, soccer is going to win in participation. The term soccer mom exists for a reason, right? So I don't know. It wasn't clear how much each of these sort of factors were weighted, if they were equally weighted or if there was more weighting put to one or the other. That's not clear to me. But just assuming for a moment that they were equally weighted at 25% each, because you had the participation, viewing, valuations of teams, and there was one more. It was also on the business side of things. I forget now, but like valuations, that's another thing that's I think worth mentioning. We know soccer is an international sport, right? We know that. We know that the business world is fraught with rich people from other parts of the world, other countries, tripping over themselves to buy American assets because of the incredible buying power of the consumer base here. So valuations and investment money in teams and team values, when you're talking about largely international money, but even if you're talking about domestic money, there's not usually a clear linear line between what a team is valued at and how popular they are as a viewing product. You know, like, for example, let's take the Golden State Warriors. They are the most valuable franchise, second most valuable franchise in the NBA right now, behind the Knicks. You think the Knicks are more popular to view on television than the Warriors? No way. You think Julius Randle or even Jalen Brunson is more popular than Steph Curry? Of course not. So being well-heeled and heavily invested in by people who are looking to buy assets is not a correlation to popularity. So to lump them together as two equal, or even if they were unequal factors in the weighting in determining which sport is more popular than another, if you're talking popularity of the sport, and that's what we're trying to evaluate, I think it has to start and end with things that are direct tie-ins to popularity. Jersey sales, ticket purchases, television audience, radio audience. Those 4 things. That's it. And I suspect, although I don't know, but I suspect if you did that, soccer would be, maybe it would have overtaken hockey. It probably was always pretty close. I suspect if you did just focus on those 4 factors, it would be nowhere close to basketball, baseball, or football. That's my suspicion. Could be wrong, but that's what I think. But if you ask me which would I rather watch, my answer is C, none of the above. I can't stand either sport. I think they're both unwatchable. I don't like either one of them. Hockey, I can do a little bit live. The atmosphere is good. I like the cool sort of the subtle, like almost scent of the ice. I like the sound of bodies hitting the boards. So hockey, I can do a little bit live. Can't do it at all on television. And I just can't do soccer, period. So there you have it. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we will get into a little NBA, and then we'll wrap things up with some news you can use. Back after this is the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All righty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show. It's time to talk some NBA. Lakers lost a close game against the 76ers yesterday by 1 point. Joel Embiid and LeBron James kind of duked it out, and the Sixers ended up winning by a whisker. And the Knicks continue to be really good. Look, the Knicks dominated for chunks of the game against Detroit. They didn't win by a huge amount, but I'll tell you one thing. Julius Randle is an absolute monster. He is game by game beginning to change my mind in terms of what I see his ceiling as an NBA player being. I think he's perfectly capable of being a number 2 on a championship team at this point. I really do. I still don't think he's a number 1 on a championship team, but I do think he's a number 2. The guy is playing just out of his mind, and I love watching it. He's just so good right now. He really is. And with today, of course, being Martin Luther King Day, there are some early games in the NBA. We'll get to them momentarily. But I'll tell you something. I'm really enjoying watching the way Randall's playing right now. I really am. They beat the Pistons by 13, 117-104 yesterday. Beating the Pistons is no big prize. Of course, they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. But Randall had 42 points on 15 of 24 shooting, and he had 15 rebounds to go along with it and 4 assists. That's big boy numbers right there. Mitchell Robinson had a good game in this one. You'll say, well, he only had 4 points. He was only 2 of 6. Yeah, but the guy had 12 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. He anchors that back end of that defense. Jalen Brunson continues to play great. 27 points on 9 of 17 shooting, including 2 of 4 from long range. Barrett's back and starting to get his legs back under him. Had 13 points. Didn't shoot great, just 4 of 10. But he's trying to get back into the swing of things. And the 5th starter in this one, Quentin Grimes, had 11. So 4 of the 5 Knicks starters with double-digit points. Only guy off the bench that really did anything was Quickly, who had 17. Played a short bench in this one. Only 4 guys played, and 2 of those 4 hardly played. Toppin and McBride combined for 14 minutes. So 9 for Toppin, 5 for McBride. So really, and only Isaiah Hartenstein only had 12 minutes. So really, realistically, Quigley was the only one who played big minutes here. That's typical Thibodeau type of basketball, right? Kind of runs his top 6 or so guys pretty much all night. Notable DMPs, Cam Reddish, Derrick Rose, Evan Fournier. None of them played. Coach's decision. So it's a pretty tight rotation. But hey, good win for the Knicks either way. Getting back here to some of these other games from yesterday, I briefly mentioned the Laker loss against the 76ers. That was a really close game. Two other big notable losses. First of all, the Magic almost beat the Nuggets. The Nuggets needed a Nikola Jokic step back to beat the Magic, a terrible team. But a win is a win, right? Portland overwhelmed Dallas, scoring 140 points in regulation to win 140 to 123. Lillard, of course, was key to that. Two upsets last night. The Thunder beat the Nets. You have to consider that an upset even without Durant. And then the Warriors fell to the Bulls. That's a tough loss. Look, the Warriors have a good chunk of their roster right now. They do. Green played, Curry played, Thompson played, Wiggins played, Looney played. Their 5 starters were all there. They all played big minutes, their normal minute loads, basically. 26 for Looney, 29 for Wiggins. That might be a hair lower than his normal, but pretty close. Curry and Thompson both over 30. Green over 30. What's the excuse? What's the reason? I mean, you're losing to bad teams. This is a bad Bulls team. They're 4 games under 500. They're not good. They scored 132 points against you. And that's the problem with the Warriors and the Lakers, for that matter. These guys can't stop anybody. Nobody. They just can't guard anyone. And, even in the NBA of today, which is really wide open, offense is pretty free-flowing. It's just hard to play defense because of the space and shooting ability of so many guys and the fact that you can only do so much physically. All those factors make defense very hard. So I'm not one of these like kind of old guys that's like, they don't play any defense. They don't even try. No, they try. It's just hard to do. But that said, giving up 132 against a blah Bulls team, if you're the Warriors, just unacceptable. And at some point, Draymond Green's supposed to be this great defensive player, right? At some point, well, if you're a great defensive player, why aren't you great defensively? We have to start asking that question. It's like, well, he had 2 steals, he had a block. Like, watch the games. This team doesn't guard anybody. And what I end up seeing is a lot of help defenders get beat because they're always helping, because no one wins their matchup. So what ends up happening is guys end up switching and they get, they're late on the switch. They switch in the wrong direction. They hedge when they should have gone over. They go over when they should have hedged. Under. I'm sorry. That's what happens. And when you're constantly in scramble mode defensively, you're not going to have success. Any decent basketball person will tell you that. It's imperative to be able to play team defense and switch and communicate and do those type of things. Absolutely. You're not going to win if you can't do those things either. But they should be something that isn't happening every single play, because some plays you're supposed to win your matchup defensively. So when all of a sudden every play someone's driving by Curry, or someone's getting around Thompson, or someone is, backdooring because Green got screened, and now Looney is coming over to close out the lane, or if Curry gets beat on the perimeter, Draymond is coming over to back him up, and then Klay Thompson is trying to rotate. Like, when you start playing that musical chairs every possession, you're gonna give up a whole lot of points. And that's what I see with the Warriors when I watch this team play. I see a team that is constantly scrambling defensively, constantly helping and switching, because they're constantly losing those one-on-one matchups across up and down their roster. The only guy I see win those matchups sometimes is Andrew Wiggins. Klay Thompson, every once in a while, but I think his best days as a defender are behind him. There's a lot of injuries there. But I think that when you watch this team, if you really know what you're looking for, you see a team that's constantly trying to play catch up because someone got beat and they're trying to scramble to cover. And that's why they give up a lot of points. And it's no surprise with that setting when you have a athletic team on the wing like you do with Chicago with Levine and Wiggins and DeRozan, excuse me, that's going to cause a lot of problems. And it does. And you can see it. Lakers lost a tough one. LeBron became the second guy in NBA history to have 38,000 points. He's now under 400 points away from surpassing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the all-time scoring leader. So that LeBron watch will probably officially commence in serious manner sometime right before or after the All-Star break, depending how he continues to play. If it's getting 35 a night, we're looking at about 7 to 10 more games before you start saying, okay, well, what night is he going to do this? So this is getting really, really imminent. Really exciting stuff. Look, this is the type of record that when it's up for being broken should be a sports fan universal unifier. And it's not going to be. And it's a shame. It reminds me of when Barry Bonds was getting ready to break Hank Aaron's record. And that should have been a historic moment. And it wasn't because people chose to believe the steroid thing. People choose to believe whatever they believe about LeBron, and enough of them do it that it's now costing the collective, the sports world, a type of moment that comes around, if you're lucky, twice in your viewing lifetime as a sports fan. Think about this. Kareem's held that record for more or less 40 years. I think he broke it in 1984. So 39 years. If you were 14 then, okay? Say you were 14, you were in high school, freshman year of high school, when that record broke. You're now, what, 53? This is the first time you're seeing this record fall. I mean, I guess maybe you remember, I guess, you'd be the second because you saw Kareem break the record from Wilt, and then you saw, well, now you'll see LeBron. So that's 2. Assuming another 40 years between records, which, is a stretch of an assumption. I understand that. But these records don't fall all the time. There's an excellent chance you won't be alive for it. Even if it was another 25 years, you'd be almost 80 years old. You could be dead. Statistically, you're more likely to be dead than not at that point with the life expectancy numbers, what they are. 78 or so if you're a woman, and about 74 if you're a man, give or take. So it's a shame that we can't universally appreciate how incredibly rare and special this is. This is a incredible record. This isn't a run-of-the-mill rank and file garden variety record. This is a top shelf record that is just takes an ungodly amount of consistency and longevity to even have a shot at, right? I mean, like, that's the thing. And that's why no one thought anyone would ever break it for all those years. And no one really ever came close until LeBron. Malone kind of gave a run at it. But, like, the problem it is like, with these type of records, it's one thing, like Luka Doncic right now is on pace to break this record. Well, the pace he's on, he basically has to sustain into his late 30s and even beyond for 20 years. In other words, you have to be just as good in year 18, 19, and 20 to break a record like this as you were in years 3, 4, and 5. That's why these records don't fall. That's why Jerry Rice's receiving records are still in such good shape. It's just bloody hard. I mean, Jerry Rice at 40 with the Raiders was a top 7 or 8 receiver in the NFL still, right? I mean, like, it's hard to do, man. It really is. It's the reason why I always value longevity over quote unquote peak dominance, because any great player is going to be great in their years 25 through 30 seasons. They just are. That's the biological nature of it. It's way more impressive when a guy is just about as good as he was at 25 at the age of 40 or 38. That's way more impressive to me. It always has been. It always will be. It's incredible. I mean, just think about the differences in yourself as a non-athlete, most likely. I'm assuming if you're listening, you're not an athlete, but if you are, then I'm not talking about you, but most of us aren't former pro athletes or current pro athletes. But just think about it yourself. When you were 25, you would think of nothing of just sprinting to the corner and running up this hill and, walking all over town. And, it was nothing. Running up and down a hill to go sleigh riding or whatever you did. You didn't think anything of it. Now you'd be like, am I going to live? You got 38. Should I really do that? I'm going to be gasping for air, haven't I? Like, imagine having to be just as good as you were physically at 38. Just imagine having to be just as good as you were at 25. That's what it takes to have a shot at a record like this. It's really impressive. It truly is. By the way, a couple of news and notes, which we'll get to on the other side of this break. I got Dallas winning tonight. Let's take our last commercial. We'll come back and we'll wrap it up with some news you can use. I got a few of them here to give you a nice little send-off as we wrap up the show. The Gary Ayd Show here in the Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All righty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show on the Cave. Last couple of minutes, it's time for some news you can use. A little news and notes. By the way, I got a good one. So I came across this stat the other day and I compared it. And it's true. This is just epic. This instantly became one of my 5 favorite. I almost did this for a top 5 today with 5 favorite sports facts, but I decided to go more topical. But this instantly became one of my all-time favorite statistics and factoids. So we all know Barry Bonds is the all-time leader in intentional walks. Okay. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is just by what kind of margin we're talking about. So much so that had Bonds only played, and this is the factoid, had Bonds only played his only years of being an active baseball player, had they been 2002 to 2004, those 3 years, if he had just played those 3 years alone, he still would have retired in the top 5 all-time in intentional walks. Think how crazy that is. It's mind-blowing. And to put it another way, Bonds has 688 intentional walks. 688. You know who's second place? The recently retired Albert Pujols. Okay, reasonable. Their careers intersected for a chunk. You want to guess how many walks he has, intentional walks? Try 319. In other words, you could double his career intentional walk total, and he still wouldn't equal Barry Bonds. And he's second. It's sanity, man. Like, there are often, and not often, every so often, that's what I meant to say, every so often, there are facts like that, in my opinion, end a lot of debate. And a statistic like that, the enormity of the gap between Bonds and second place all-time in intentional walks, absolutely conclusively tells me, without any question, that Bonds, if not the best all-time hitter, was without a doubt the most universally feared hitter ever in baseball history. There's no question about it. The only reason you ever walk a guy on purpose is because you're afraid of him. So that is without a doubt a direct correlation to the level of fear teams have of you in terms of the number of intentional walks you have. Bonds has more than double second place. He is easily, without a doubt, the most feared hitter in baseball history. Most feared. I'm not saying the best, although he's one of them too. But you can make arguments for the best or whatever. You could say Ted Williams. You could say Babe Ruth. There's other guys you can mention. You can't argue that Bonds was the most feared hitter in baseball history based on that fact alone. I don't think you can make a reasonable argument otherwise. I really don't. It's mind-blowing. And like the best part about it is, if you're old enough to have watched him, and I am, you can feel, it's like one of those, like, you ever see one of those Facebook memes where like it's like a picture of like Billy Mays or something, right? It's just a picture, but you could like hear the picture, or you could like taste the picture, like another sense that doesn't, no pun intended, that doesn't make sense for what the image is, because it's an image. You can't hear or taste images, of course, but you could like hear Billy Mays when you look at his picture. You could taste maybe like an ice pop stick when you look at an ice pop on a picture, right? Like with Barry Bonds, if you watched him play live, like during his career, when you look at a number like that, you can feel the fear that existed every time he batted for those years. Like every time he was due up in an inning, you could feel the fear of the other team. They were afraid of this guy. It wasn't respect. It wasn't, better safe than sorry. They were straight scared of him, like terrified. And it was understandable because he would kill the ball every time he got a pitch to hit. That's the thing. Like, he's getting all these walks, top 5 all-time intentional walks in baseball history in 3 years, right? He's getting all those walks, which means, what is he getting? A couple pitches a week that he can hit, and he's still hitting all those home runs. Think about that. Think about how perfect his batting eye was and how great he was at making strong contact when he did get a pitch, when you factor in how few pitches he really got. It's absolutely amazing. All right, another couple of things here. Jeff Bezos has yet to put in a bid on the Washington Redskins. I'm not going to call them by their current name. And none of the half dozen bids currently submitted to the team exceed $6.3 billion. There was a first round deadline of December 23rd. A couple of speculative reasons as to why maybe Bezos, who's well known to want a football team, hasn't gone this route yet. There is a lot of personal animosity between Bezos and current owner Dan Schneider. Maybe Bezos just doesn't want to give Schneider the big check. It's possible. And it's possible also the other way that Schneider is holding out on Bezos. But ultimately, if Bezos outbid everyone, Snyder is unlikely to leave a whole bunch of money on the table. But that's what it's going to take. So maybe that's the other part of Bezos' trepidation, is he knows Snyder's going to kind of make him pay more than anyone else might have to pay. So he's hesitant to kind of jump in that fray for that reason. That's possible. One other thing to take a look at is if you are a fan of just sports in general, you should really be paying attention to what's going on with the NBA right now. There's a lot of good games, a lot of good teams, a lot to get excited about. And we have a busy NBA day today with Martin Luther King Day. So happy and healthy MLK Day, everyone. And we will see you again tomorrow. Rich and I will be back in our normal 10 to noon spot. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you just today, one-on-one, but Rich will be back tomorrow, and we're looking forward to it. Until then, enjoy the Monday Night Football playoff game, last Monday Night Football game of the year, and enjoy the full slate of NBA games as well. Back tomorrow, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.